Hey, welcome back to Case Studies. Today we're going to hear from Gail Miller. Gail is truly a force of nature. She's a force for good and a force for God. And this is her presentation at the MW3 Conference. I hope you enjoy it.
Wow. Hello, everyone. What a great event. I am so impressed for a first event that you've come out like you have. And I'm really impressed with Casey and Dave for creating an event that really shows their intent to give back to the community and the essential part of lives, creating a purpose for what we do. Not just for ourselves, but also for the people around us. So again, thank you for your efforts today. I'm going to give 4 segments to my talk because today the focus is on mastery, wealth, wisdom, and wellness. So I'm going to just touch on each of those 4 topics. I'm going to start today with a little bit of history. Both my husband Larry and I grew up in pretty humble circumstances. We were kids from the heart of Salt Lake City, and we met at the age of 12. We started dating at 14. We got married at 21. My home was very humble. At times, we just had the bare necessities to survive. I didn't have name brand clothes like some of my schoolmates did, and my family struggled a lot of the time to have food on the table. Vacations were far and few between, if at all, and the highlight of the week was generally a Sunday night ride down to the ice cream store to get a 10-cent ice cream cone with all the kids piled in the car. But I did have a strong foundation guided by solid principles by parents who encouraged their children to be proud of who they were and always do their best. You cannot minimize a good foundation. But being poor helped me to build character. It helped me to develop strengths and talents and generate lots of self-determination and a lot of fortitude to do what I felt was right. And because of that, I never really felt poor. I felt blessed. Now, Larry's family was a true middle-class America family with a father that had a steady job and a mother who worked but was always able to make homemade bread and put a nice home-cooked meal on the table at night. And during my senior year in high school, I was able to get a job at the telephone company, and that changed my life. At last, I had a little bit of money to do some fun things with. But the first thing I bought was a bedroom set because I'd never had my own bed. And the second thing I bought was a washer and dryer for my mother because she had been using a wringer washer. Now, many of you probably don't even know what a wringer washer is, but it was dangerous. Sometimes you get your hand caught in the wringer while you were wringing the clothes out to hang them up. Well, Larry and I were married, and we lived in Salt Lake City for 5 years before we moved to Colorado to play softball and to pursue a career in the car business. He was a serious fast-pitch softball player and pitcher, and his goal was to someday win a national championship. And while he was working on that goal, he wanted to drive to Colorado Springs one weekend. We had a 4-month-old baby. We had a Falcon Sprint convertible, and we had a little bit of money to buy gas. He wanted to measure himself against the highest caliber players he could find to see what he needed to do to improve to make it to the Nationals. We set out in our car, drove all day to get to Colorado Springs, watched the tournament, stayed the night in the parking lot because we couldn't afford a motel, watched the games all day the next day, and drove home. On the way home, we had an experience that had a huge impact on us. And this is the rest of the story. As we got close to Rock Springs, Wyoming, in the middle of the night, we ran out of gas. Not wanting to leave me and our baby on the street or on the side of the road while he went to get gas or thumbed a ride into town, he thought he would try to flag someone down. Fortunately, the first car that came by stopped, and it happened to be an El Camino with two big drums in the back of the car. One had gasoline in it, the other one had diesel fuel. This was a man who went around Wyoming checking on oil wells on the rig. So fortunately, he was able to help us. When he asked us what we needed, Larry said that we were out of gas and we would be most grateful if he could give us a ride into town. And he was very happy to help and said, well, I've got gas right here, I'll help you. So they confirmed that the car was out of gas. They filled the tank, primed the carburetor, and the car started right up. We were extremely grateful for his help and kept trying to pay him back for the gas. And every time we said anything, he refused. He said, I don't need any payment. I'm just happy to help you. Finally, Larry said, well, if there's anything at all we can ever do to help you, please let us know. So he went back to his car, and Larry watched him. As he put one leg in the car, he got back out, and he said, you know, there is one thing you can do to help me. The next time you run out of gas or you see someone else who has run out of gas, stop and help them. That changed our life. We were young marrieds. We were struggling to make a living. And we knew right then that that was something we could do even without a lot of money. It doesn't take money to have a kind heart and to do a good deed. So we took that to mean that we would help wherever and whenever we could. And that became the foundation of our attitude regarding giving. It helped to ground us and to look for the opportunity to help others. Today we call it Enriching Lives, and it's the mission of our company. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the next step, building wealth. We had 2 children when we moved to Colorado to play softball 4 years later. And then we came back to buy our own dealership. We lived there for 8.5 years, but our circumstances changed drastically from what we thought they would be. And we found ourselves with an uncertain future because our boss wanted his children to take over his business. So we decided to cash in all our savings and all our investments, which amounted to $88,000. And we moved back to Utah to buy our own dealership and to work for ourselves rather than be an employee of someone else. So with that money and a loan from his uncle, excuse me, because, you know, a dealership costs more than $88,000, we bought Toyota of Murray in 1979. We had about 30 employees that came with the store. The early years were really tough. It was a lot different being an employer than it was being an employee, especially for me, who was a stay-at-home mom raising 5 kids with no ability to have any influence in the company. And if I did, I wouldn't have any idea what to do with it. All I could do was support Larry, make sure that he had what he needed, and make sure the kids were taken care of. So when he would come home, I would make sure he could rest, renew, be fed, get a good night's sleep, get up the next morning and go out and slay some more dragons to be able to secure our future. He was spending all of his time and energy into getting our business on solid footing and securing our future. And that meant that we needed to put all our money back into the business. So when he brought home his paycheck each week, or every 2 weeks, he'd say, "Oh, thank you very much." He'd say to me, "How much money do you need to pay bills this month?" And I had to be very frugal. And I would tell him, and he'd say, "Okay, write me back a check for the difference. I need to put it back into the company to help secure make our business secure." Now, along with doing that, we remembered our commitment to the Wyoming driver who helped us, so we decided we would keep some out to help pay forward the kindnesses that we had received. One thing we always felt good about was that neither one of us coveted money. Our goal was not to spend our money on a lot of things, I'll call them toys, or to amass a lot of personal wealth and splurge on a big home or an RV or an airplane or similar things. And I'm not saying that those things are bad, just that we didn't want or need that for us. We believed, and we still do, that money is a tool to do good things with. It could also be called a measuring stick of how well you're doing in your business. But early on in our business experience, we determined that as our fortune grew, we did not want money to change us. We talked about having sufficient for our needs, and we believe everybody has that right to determine what is sufficient for your needs. But once you've done that, what do you do with the rest? Everyone needs to determine that as well. And we started out small, but soon we started setting aside larger sums of money for our giving. And as we grew our business, we grew that amount to more. One day Larry came home and he said, "We're finally in a position that we can now afford to do philanthropy in a much more significant and meaningful way." So we created a family foundation. We wanted to be able to give in a way that would make the most benefit for the most people in the best way we could. We understood that that was a stewardship of our wealth. Larry had one saying, and maybe you've heard it by our employees and our business and our family, and it's, "Go about doing good until there's too much good in the world." It's an interesting thought. Too much good in the world? What does that look like? What if everyone in here had that thought and that determination? We would make a big difference. We call that a virtuous cycle, and it goes like this. Our company provides goods and services. Our employees support our effort by giving our customers their best service. This draws customers to our companies who buy our goods and service, and then the money that they spend pays for good jobs for our employees, and the profits are returned back into the community in ways that make it a better place to live and work and play, and then the cycle starts all over again, and everyone feels good about it. One day, Larry asked me this question: "Gail, how many people do you think in Utah have been impacted by our business, bought a car or serviced a car, shared their first date at the movie theater, eaten at our restaurants, watched a Jazz or a Bees game, or driven around the racetrack?" Well, out of curiosity, we actually had a survey taken and discovered that over 90% of the people in Utah had been touched by what we had built and created over the years. Thank you. We called those interactions points of light. And we actually produced a video that was quite interesting to watch all those places light up and feel the gratitude of being able to make a difference. Reflecting on those points of light, we knew that we had an opportunity to touch lives with more than just business transactions, but also through service. Winston Churchill said, "We make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give." Larry and I certainly wanted to make a life by what we gave. We believed that we should help our employees by providing good jobs, enriching their families through scholarships, which we provided for every dependent child of our employees, and opportunities for their children. And by doing that, we feel like we lift a whole community because education is the key to the future. I say entire because we didn't just invest or give in our industry of business. We wanted to lift our whole state. We wanted to champion our people and provide opportunities for all Utahns. I believe we have a special gift here in Utah. We have wonderful people who have wealth, who are generous, and it's increasing every single day. Much of that is due to great investments like the ones you're making. But first, we have to share that wealth and not keep it for our businesses only. But it is important to keep money in perspective. Don't let money define who you are. I've been poor and I've been rich, and I'm the same person either way because I know who I am and what the values are that I live by. I've discovered that money works like this, especially for entrepreneurs. Money can give you the freedom to live your life the way you want to. You have the freedom to earn as much as you want to. You can do whatever you want with your wealth. You have the freedom to bless the lives of others by providing employment and goods and services if you want to. And most of all, you have the freedom to live life according to the values and beliefs that you cherish to be true. However, like everything else, money can bring you the exact opposite. It can cause an addiction to the excitement of the venture. It can make you a slave to the indebtedness and demands of others. You could carelessly lose all of your wealth. You may develop an obsession for increased riches and economic power. You might carelessly cause the destruction of other people's lives and well-being. And you may find yourself doing whatever it takes to get the riches and the power that you want. So you can see that money can bring you good or evil. It can be uplifting or degrading. It can be helpful or hurtful to others, and it can greatly enlarge your soul or it can shrivel your soul. Money itself is neutral. It's what you do with it that matters. I have a quote that I love, and it says, "The real measure of your wealth is how much you'd be worth if you lost all your money." Think about that. Larry always said, if I lost all my money today, I'd be fine selling apples on the corner because I'd sell more apples than you do. Well, now I'm going to talk a little bit about, about wisdom. After Larry passed away, and I had the choice to step into the business, I decided that was my best course of action, even though I had never worked in the business. I had had the benefit of being his partner from day one in all that we had done, including being full ownership partner. Larry took care of the main responsibilities, but I signed all the tax returns, and I was his sounding board and confidant. But my personal journey has been very interesting to me and very unexpected. I've transitioned from a homemaker and a housewife to the sole owner of the Larry H. Miller Company, and I have become a businesswoman. I think business is very fun. I knew that while we had smart people running our day-to-day operations, that Larry and I had created a legacy and a culture that needed to be preserved. So my focus has been mainly on the future and how we will get from here to the future. So some of the things that I've done are I put in a stronger governance to ensure that our family company would last indefinitely. That included creating a formal board of directors with 6 independent outside board members, 4 family members, a CEO, and a grade director. And then I took the job of being chair of the board. Of course, I had to hire a coach to help me, but it was a fun experience. I did that for 5 years. I put the ownership in a trust and created a family governance structure to be the trustees of that trust when I'm gone. I created a family office and hired a director to oversee the family needs and to direct our foundation work. Our foundation is governed by a family board of trustees who ensure that that virtuous cycle of turning profits into charity and charitable giving is never lost. And then my youngest son and I solidified a program we call Who We Are that memorializes our mission, vision, and values, a very, very important part of business. Recently, we had 2 liquidation events, the sale of the Utah Jazz and the sale of 69 dealer automotive group, both of which has given us an opportunity to increase the corpus of our foundation in a major way, as well as diversify the footprint of our business and do some investing in other companies. Now, I can envision a day when our main business is philanthropy. We need to have an abundance mindset as business owners and philanthropists. You don't have to reach your goals of becoming the next unicorn company or billionaire before you start sharing your wealth and lifting the community. You can do something right now. Philanthropy is exciting, it's gratifying, it's rewarding, it's beneficial, and it lifts all who are involved. Now, I want to talk a little bit about wellness and how businesses affect wellness. We love using our wealth to bless the lives of others. I want to tell you a story about a man who impacted us in a very special way. His name is Judge Andy Valdez. Some of you may know him. He was a juvenile court judge in the Third Circuit in Salt Lake City. Before that, he was a young 11-year-old boy selling newspapers on the corner, trying to help support his family with a very thin coat and very little prospect of making much money. But one day, a man named Jack Keller came along and said, "Son, I've seen you on the corner every day. I want to help you. You need to get into sports, and I'm going to help you do that and help you get an education, and that will change your life." So Jack did that. He took Andy to the country club, got him involved in some tournaments. Andy said he felt like a raisin in a bowl of rice pudding because he was Latino. But he enjoyed the opportunity to see how the other half lived, and it made a difference in his life. He went on to get that education, and he became a very prominent judge. That influenced our thinking about education, and we decided that we would create some special scholarships at the University of Utah for minority students who are first-time attendees, who now are very successful in what they're doing. We have 40 students on scholarship every year, and they're literally changing their lives and the world. We recently gathered, we've been doing that for 20 years. We recently gathered them together to celebrate and honor the cohorts that have been through the program. More than 200 students and $13 million later, we can see a groundswell of change. We saw them with their families, and we heard them talk about their careers and their communities, and it was inspiring and gratifying. For us, it was never about the new Toyota sold or the box office hits for a holiday weekend. It was about the generations of families living better lives and changing our collective futures. Speaking of our futures, what is more important than our children and our grandchildren? When my first son, Greg, was just a baby, he fell off our bed and suffered a subdural hematoma, and he needed brain surgery. I was a young, inexperienced mother, not even aware of the danger he was in, and discovered it through a routine baby check. But I was sent directly to Primary Children's Hospital, who saved his life with wonderful doctors and nurses, and they helped me through that traumatic experience. Today, this very day, I have a great-grandson who is going through open heart surgery at Primary Children's Hospital. The tender, loving care that these children receive from the doctors and nurses up there have influenced me in a way that when I heard about the Primary Promise, I was determined that we would help support that, and we gave the first gift, hoping that others would follow. This is going to be the nation's model health system for children, And that's why we did not hesitate to say yes. And I even agreed to be one of the co-chairs to help raise money. This effort is called the Primary Promise Campaign, and you've heard some about it this morning. Our goal is to raise $600 million or more for pediatric-specific projects, programs, and facilities that will serve the Intermountain West. This represents the largest commitment to the care and health of the region's children since Primary Children's Hospital was envisioned in the early 1900s. So we have committed, along with many other generous donors, to give significant support to Primary Promise and one of its key projects, the new Lehigh Children's Hospital. As a chair, I've met with several philanthropists, including Todd and Andy Pedersen and Ryan and Ashley Smith, who have also generously agreed to support Primary Promise. Because you see, businesses can change hands and come and go, but what stays is the impact they make for good. You might get richer or poorer in business, but Anne Frank said, no one has ever become poor by giving. And I can attest to that. During the downturn in 2008 and 9, when our company had to cut back, I said to the CEO, you can cut back everywhere you need to, but we are not going to stop giving. And we didn't, and we made it through because blessings flowed back to us. I really appreciate the Sandlot Partners and this conference for choosing Primary Promise to be its focus for charitable giving. And I would like to end with this. A few years ago, my professional coach encouraged me to write a letter to myself to focus on my journey and measure my progress. It was a good exercise, and I really think it would be beneficial if each of you would go ahead and do that and write one for yourself. In the letter, there were a lot of things I talked about, but I gave myself grace and offered myself forgiveness for the things I had done wrong or not done at all. I realized that I needed to cherish the present, respect the past, and look to the future. And I also thought about what is life's purpose and meaning. These are the last lines of my letter. I will find and put meaning in everything I do. Meaning is the way we define ourselves. Without meaning, there is no purpose. Without purpose, there is no energy. And without energy, there is no me. I will look for and take in more meaning. I will look to the future, live in the present, and treasure the past. There is so much good yet to be experienced. Life is good. Life is precious. And I believe that. So what is your meaning? Not just your company's mission statement, but your personal meaning. What are you doing with the leads generated, the customers gained, the revenue booked? Are you lifting? Are you loving? Are you leading? Are you inspiring? Are you clothing and feeding? Are you protecting? Are you championing? As you think about how to go about it, my suggestion is lead with love and success will follow. Love will never fail you. I believe the quality of your life will be in direct proportion to the quality of the decisions you make. And it's my wish that you may all make the best decisions of your life from this day forward and experience the joy of success wherever you look for it. Thank you again for this opportunity to share my thoughts with you this morning and be enriched by you. And thank you so much to the facilitators of this program. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.